Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Sarasota Nightmare Part 5. This is the tragic life of Carly Brochea. After Jeffrey Pincus would arrive to the police and tell the police at 7 p.m. that not only had Joseph Smith not been at the house, but had also borrowed his station wagon vehicle. And considering everything that they had on Joseph Smith, his track record, and considering the fact that he did own a large selection of dark metallic work uniforms and had a name tag that had 3 letters which would match the 3 letters that was found on the CCTV footage of the abduction of Carly. Jeffrey would also tell the police that he would be gone all afternoon and would not return to the following morning. And when he returned the car the following morning, the car would be completely disheveled where the back seat was completely folded down. And would also tell the police that he had noticed on the odometer that Joseph Smith had driven over 300 miles since he had the vehicle. They would transport Joseph Smith from the jail to the station for questioning about the abduction of Carly, but he would completely shut down immediately from the investigation and request a lawyer almost immediately. And because they couldn't get further information from him, they would send him back to jail. And they would get a phone call from his brother, John Smith, the next following day. John Smith would call the police and tell the police that he needed to report a statement made by Joseph Smith. Now, during the investigation with Joseph Smith, he had asked multiple times to the police to call his mother and brother, and they would not let him do it because he had already requested for a lawyer and could not talk to anyone until the lawyer was present. It is at that point that when he returned to jail, Joseph Smith would call his brother and would tell John that he was in fact the guy on the CCTV footage. And not only was he the guy on the CCTV footage, but after abducting 11-year-old Carly Smith, he not only would sexually assault her, but would actually kill her. And then John would tell the police where he had actually hid the body. After getting off the phone with the police would get another phone call from a family member, this time from John and Joseph's mother. And she would tell the police the exact same story that John Smith had just told the police. The only difference in this story was that Joseph Smith had told his mother that he wasn't looking for a female to assault, and that after assaulting her, the killing of Carly was completely accidental. But the police had decided, with 2 stories being very similar, they and the forensic team would waste no time going over there to see if there was any truth to these stories. And sadly, the stories that John Smith and their mother had told the police would in fact be true. And on February 6, 2004, 5 days after Carly Brochea had went missing, the police would find the half-nude body of 11-year-old Carly Brochea. She would have ligature marks around her wrists, her throat, and would be partially nude from the waist down. The only thing they would find from the lower half of her body was 1 sock on 1 foot. The police theorized that on the 1st, Carly Brochea had begun walking down B Street and was walking towards the car wash and walked around to the back of the car wash as a way to make a shortcut on their way home. Meanwhile, while on drugs and painkillers, Joseph Smith would approach his landlord and ask to borrow his station wagon, and would get in the car and drive down B Road looking for a female that he could kidnap and assault. And there he would find 11-year-old Carly Brochea walking towards the car wash, to where he would take the station wagon and drive over to the car wash. And when he noticed that she was walking behind the car wash, he would pull out of the car wash, drive down B Road, and drive to behind the car wash, where he would approach Carly. And at that point, grab her by the arm and put her in the back of the station wagon and drive off. It is then theorized that after abducting Carly Brochea, Joseph Smith would drive to an unsecluded area where he would bind her and assault her. And after he was done raping the 11-year-old girl, he would take a shoestring out and strangle her with the shoestring until she died by asphyxiation. After she had been killed, he would place the body back in the station wagon and then place her in the wooded area on Proctor Road. This would implicate Joseph Smith a great deal with the case of the murder of Carly Brochea, but the forensics team would find much more evidence to implicate him more. Forensics would go inside the station wagon that belonged to Jeffrey Pincus, and inside the station wagon, not only would they find 2 hair strands that would prove to be a complete match to Carly Brochea, but they would also find around 7 fiber particles that would be an exact match to the red shirt that she wore the day she went missing. Forensics would also do testing on the red shirt that they had found on Carly Brochea, and they would find semen stains on the shirt. And when they tested the stains, it would be 100% match for that of Joseph Smith. On February 20th, 2004, Joseph Smith was arrested for the murder of Carly Brochea in the first degree. He was also arrested for not only kidnapping, but sexual battery. And even though the police had plenty of evidence implicating Joseph Smith, and even though forensics had plenty of DNA on the murder scene and on the victim, Joseph Smith would still plead not guilty. So this would mean it would go to trial. The trial would begin in November of 2005, and the trial would only last for about 10 days. Not only would the juror find Joseph Smith guilty, but they would also vote a 10-2 for the death penalty. On March 15th, 2006, everyone would attend court for the sentencing of Joseph Smith. I also want to make a quick add. This would have been the day before Carly's birthday. And on this particular day, if she had not been murdered, she would have been 13 years old. Judge Andrew Owens would not only sentence Joseph for life for the kidnapping and sexual battery of 11-year-old Carly Brochea, but he would also sentence him to death for the murder of Carly Brochea. During sentencing, Judge Andrew Owens made this statement: Carly endured unspeakable trauma, which began at the time of her kidnapping. The image of the defendant taking her arm and leading her away will no doubt forever be etched in our minds. During the sexual and physical abuse Carly was subjected to at 11 years of age, there is no doubt that she was aware of her dire predicament and that she had little or no hope of survival. Her death was conscienceless and pitiless, calculated and premeditated. Although Carly's family got the justice they wanted, Susan and Stephen would unfortunately never be the same. 3 months after the trial, Stephen would actually return home, where he had actually had a meeting with Joe Brochea, where they would meet over some beers at a bar and discuss creating a butterfly memorial for Carly. And when he arrived home, Susan would begin berating and yelling at him, to where Stephen would eventually grab and push her and wrap his hands around her throat, to where he was given a domestic battery charge. It is speculated that she had gotten angry that he was spending time with Carly's father, and she didn't like it. Shortly after trial, Susan would actually become completely dependent on heroin and other drugs. And 6 months after the trial, she would actually lose custody of her son, and her drug addiction got just worse from there. She would eventually overdose from heroin, awaiting the trial of Joseph Smith, because a recent bill had basically revoked his death penalty charge and was awaiting the trial to see it reinstated. Joseph would eventually pass away in prison awaiting his death sentence in 2021. It's speculated that Carly was not all of Joseph's victims. In 2000, police would find the body of 25-year-old Tara Riley. Her case remains unsolved to this day.